CEO School. Today's guest is Beth Bolton. Beth is a business consultant for emerging women entrepreneurs and the author of the just released book, For the Love of Cake. Beth started her personal entrepreneurial journey as the owner of A Little Something Bakery, which she ran for 11 years. Along the way, she experienced all of the highs, the lows, and the in betweens that all entrepreneurs face, and her experiences are highlighted in her book. Beth took all of her knowledge and started her consulting business, Beth Bolton Coaching, which is dedicated to helping aspiring entrepreneurs, wow, successfully launch their own businesses. Thank you, Beth, for being here.
Thank you, Kelly, for having me. Glad to be here.
So I'm so excited because this is one of my favorite topics, and it's all about when you're starting out, all the things that you don't know. And frankly, spending a little bit of money on a business coach or a consultant can pay off such big dividends later. It really makes a difference. And I want to talk a little bit about the most important question that you ask your clients, the very first thing you ask them, which is about their passion, about their why. Why are they getting into business? So, can you tell me a little bit about your why?
So, my why is actually the same for the bakery as it is for coaching. It's because I enjoy helping people, I enjoy making people happy. I like to be able to provide them with a good feeling. So, with the bakery, obviously, I had no problem doing that because there was baked goods involved. Very easy to get people to like you with
Yes.
baked goods. um, as a coach, though, not that it's difficult to get people, but you have to get them to understand the importance of why. My why for helping them is because I don't want them to go through what I went through. I want their path to be a little bit easier than my path. Even though I had gone to business school and I did, take those entrepreneurial classes, um, there's none of that in between little stuff there when you're when you're
No,
starting.
unfortunately, what you learn in school and what you deal with in real life are not, and I mean this goes with any profession, but it really does make a difference. And you had the advantage of having a business school background where most entrepreneurs don't. They open
Right.
the doors to their dream business, and they're they're not really well grounded in the details, which is of course where we step in. But
Right.
just starting a business, getting a business license, doing those sorts of things, and in fact I'm going to ask you to detail just a few of the things. If you wanted to open a brick and mortar business, what are, just rattle off a few of the things that you have to know before you are ready to open those doors, paperwork, getting ready to get ready at this point.
That's right. It is getting ready to get ready. So you first have to go to the town. You have to find out if where you're thinking that you want to open your establishment, whatever it might be, is it zoned for that? And if you secure a spot, you want to make sure that you get your contract in writing for your rent so that your landlord can't, up your rent when any old time or evict you at any old time. Then after you go to the town and you secure those things, then you're going to go in the state of Connecticut. We are actually really lucky. I'm not sure about any other states. We have a portal through the state that literally walks you through everything that you need to do. So you obviously would go to the IRS and register yourself and get your federal ID number. And then you can, in our state, you can hop on to the portal and you can get your registration number for the state. You can register for Whether you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, those are decisions that you need to make ahead of time. You have to register for your sales and use tax, your business entity tax. There's all these little tiny little things that you're not aware of that you've got to get yourself prepared for.
Oh, business insurance, something that no one
Business
thinks
insurance.
about in the beginning.
No, no. You have to. You must. We drive our cars, we buy a home, and we have insurance. The same holds true with your business. You don't want to be caught with a flood like a lot of people around here had 2 weeks ago and have lost everything because there was no type of insurance for it. So, yes, insurance, making sure you have an accountant, make sure you have a banker. Please make sure that you open your own checking account for the business and do not work it with your personal account. So,
Oh my gosh,
all these
so many things. Yes.
there there is just so many little things, and when you open up a business, there isn't anybody who gives you like this little check off sheet and tells you, okay, this and check it all off. So
Except
you
us. We'll do that.
that's right. That's what I do. I provide you with that checklist to make sure that you
Exactly.
have it all.
And some guidance as to, what if we're not the expert, which experts to consult, where to go, that kind of thing, right? It just
So,
it
absolutely. Yes. If
Yeah.
marketing is not my forte, and I tell people that up front, but this is who I know that can help you with marketing. I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, but if you need help with those, these are the people that I recommend that you go to because I trust them. And I know that they're going to be able to provide you with the information and the resources that you need.
Absolutely. And that is only one benefit of using a business consultant,
Right.
especially when you start out your business. Just making sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed can save you, honestly, can save you from not having a business at all somewhere down the line. Uh,
But
you could have your business shut down in a heartbeat if the
oh,
IRS comes knocking at your door. I mean,
absolutely.
yeah. So knowing what you need to do up front with those things is completely priceless. So that's one big, important, huge, uh, reason that you want to get a business consultant.
Yeah.
The next is that your first 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months in business each have different uh, checkpoints, each have different hurdles that you have to
Hmm.
overcome. You need to figure out, do you need staff? When do they come? When do you onboard people? How do you onboard people? How do you pay them? All those
Right.
things. And guess who can make a difference there?
That's right.
Uh, yeah. So what I want to talk about is not so much, here's a laundry list of all the reasons,
Yeah.
frightened into getting a business consult, but just really underscore that there's a real need, that using somebody can be smaller dollars up front and save a lot of dough in the
That's
long run. um, but let's talk a little bit about um, how people. Sorry, I'm just really working through. There's so many things to talk about,
that's
but
right.
you okay? So you talk a lot about. This is something. Yeah, this is something huge. I think you talk a lot about your bus. Driving your bus, knowing your destination, knowing the stops along the way, all of that. Can you talk about that analogy? And let's also talk about what happens when your destination changes at
Yeah.
some point.
So I like to use the analogy that you are the one and only driver of your bus, your dream, your business. You are the one who's in the driver's seat. Ultimately, you make the final decision as to what is going to happen in the direction of your business. I really truly believe that there are four people who are a solid foundation that you need, and that would be an accountant, a banker, a lawyer, and an insurance agent. The next person would be that business consultant, that trusted soul. That person is who's going to be there to say, nope, I don't think that's a good idea. To be really, really honest with you and help you make some of those decisions that that you want it perfect and you want it right all at the same time. And it's not all going to happen at the same time, and that's okay. You know, um, your workers, your vendors are going to be riders on your bus. And these people are going to change often. You're either going to kick them off or you're going to add more. So when you're going to hire people, there's some riders that are going onto your bus. Some people might have to get shifted to the back of the bus, but you want to be able to look at the big picture out the windshield. But don't forget to look to the left and to the right because you don't want to miss anything along the way. And that's all those little things that could pop out in front of you. So it just using that analogy just makes it easier for people to understand that there is planning that is involved before you open your business. That business
Absolutely.
plan has to happen. And
So,
that business, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead, finish your thought.
So your business plan, whether how simple or lean or complex it is your roadmap. It is a living document that changes. And that needs to be with you, and you have to understand it, and you have to understand where you're going. There is no GPS for business. It's a map.
So,
So, yeah.
yeah, I like, I mean, talking about a business plan, we've talked about this in the past. A lot of people think about a business plan when they're getting financing and they're forced to make a business plan, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not the only kind of business plan that's out there. And recommending that people put a plan together so that they understand where they're heading, what their goals are, what their destination is, and what the pitfalls along the way might be,
Right.
is really a living document. And I don't know how often you suggest that people review their plan.
Once a year.
Okay. So it absolutely makes sense to do that. And I'm going to bring something up from your book. You talk about running a bakery. And I already know that when you run a bakery, you're up before the sun is up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're busy, lighting fires and stirring ingredients at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting ready. And your busiest days of the year are holidays.
Mm-hmm. They
So,
are.
with that in mind, um, sometimes people, I think, take the something that they absolutely love in life, and in your case, baking, um, and they pour body, heart, soul, everything into an endeavor because it's something that they love. But there always are, not might be, there always are parts of that are not perfect. They're suboptimal. Um, and sometimes you know the realities, and sometimes you only think you know the realities of the
Oh,
lifestyle
sure.
choices that you take. So, what happens as you go through this journey and you realize that there are some things you can change. So I want you to kind of talk about that, and some
Hmm.
things that you can't change, and how do you manage it? How do you deal with that?
So, one of my first pitfalls or misfortunes was not really understanding how to pay your taxes, whether you were quarterly, monthly, yearly, and then how many taxes there were that you were responsible for. So, if I had a checklist that told me this is what you do, then every month you just check it off. But I didn't have that. So when my accountant asked me, "Oh, are you putting money aside for taxes?" I'm like, "What?" you know? Um, how am I supposed to, not how am I supposed to be doing that, but like how much am I supposed to be doing? Like I had no guidance as to what to anticipate at the end of every month.
Right.
So I wound up with an IRS bill that was well over $50,000. Um, I actually had some really, really wonderful people at the IRS and an accountant who helped get everything situated and put me on a payment plan. And I think one of the best things that they did for me is I had to use a payroll service. Now, I'm going to tell anybody if you have one employee, you have 10 employees, you have 100 employees, use a payroll service.
Absolutely. And if
Because,
you don't have a brick and mortar business and you do not need a full time, I believe very strongly that if you are not in a position where you want to take on all the full time responsibilities, you have two choices. You can bring on somebody as a contractor, and they will be responsible for pay. You will pay them, and then they are
mhm,
responsible for paying their taxes and everything that goes along with that. So that's one option. The other option is use an interim HR agency who will be responsible for hiring. And truthfully, I like using them because they can usually offer benefits to your
mhm,
employees that you as an individual cannot offer. So
correct.
uh, the cost is, there's absolutely a cost involved, but the HR headaches, basically, like, you're not an attorney, you're not a an accountant. So if you're not an HR professional, find an HR professional when that time comes and let them manage that part of it. But yes, if it's just payroll that you're concerned with, find a payroll company immediately. Do
Oh
not
my
do
God.
it yourself.
It's so much easier too. And the money is taken out, it's taken out weekly. And it's something that you can plan, and it's just, it is so much easier. I can't stress enough that if you are busy with your craft and working in your business, and whether it be a bakery or whether you're, someone doing woodwork or someone who sews, you're into your craft and you're laser focused. And there's just not enough hours in the day to get all the other things done. So take the help that you can get. Yes, it costs a little bit of money, but really you don't, there's different levels that you can take. So if you're just starting out, you start at a lower level and it's not going to cost you as much as if you had 25 employees. So, I mean, there's really different levels that you can look at. Take advantage of that and make sure that you're starting off with your best foot forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yes, HR is one of those areas that there are a lot of regulations, there are a lot of laws, there are deadlines that you have to meet, and money that has to be withheld. And if you don't understand it, do not take that responsibility on. And in fact, if you do understand it, do not take that responsibility on. Don't
That's
do
right.
it. You have other more important things to do for your business. So, it just behooves you to not uh, to stay in your area of expertise.
That's right.
And
And
not
I
because,
was, go ahead.
no, all I'm going to say is not because you can't do it. Yes, you can. I feel like I could be perfectly competent at taking care of my payroll, but that time that I spend on that takes away from me developing my core business. That is not revenue generating time for me. So it's not in my area of responsibility. So I need to find
Absolutely.
somebody else to
Yeah.
do that.
And that's what I was going to say. And I was in HR and I do understand, but you know what? When you get in there and you start working, it's a whole different ball game. So, yeah, let someone else
Absolutely.
handle that kind of stuff.
Exactly right.
And then
So,
there's really some unexpected things that we have no control over whatsoever. We had a very huge October snowstorm, a blizzard, and it happened right before Halloween. They even canceled Halloween. People get very upset when they don't have their chocolate, let me just tell you. But we were closed. We had no choice but to close. We had no power. And we didn't have power for 9 days. And I went to the insurance company and they told me that I did not have the correct insurance to have anything covered. Loss of food, loss of business, nothing. We lost everything.
yeah.
And I
And
mind you, that's 3 weeks before Thanksgiving.
yeah. And all that money just vanished. It just
Nope.
might as well have
So,
taken it and torn it up and burned it.
yep. So
Because,
this is
yeah.
where that insurance guy plays the important fact. I
And
went back to
having,
my
I'm sorry, I
go
was just going to say, having a business advisor who has the experience to ask you, did you get insurance for business losses? Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
Yeah, I would tell it. I tell everybody that now that comes to see me. And I said, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but trust me, we live in the Northeast. We had a hurricane come through here that dumped 7 inches of rain. That October dropped, 30 inches of snow. We don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. So make sure that you have the things to be able to protect you and your business. And whether you have
Absolutely.
an LLC or a corporation or you're a sole proprietor, it's all the same. You still need to have the proper insurance for the type of business you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes, that's a difference oftentimes. I mean, that could have put you out of business right there. You could have had that 9 days, no income, loss of all of those assets, your loss of food, everything that went with it. And you might not have had a Thanksgiving because you might not have been able to recoup fast enough to turn around and make that happen. So,
Correct.
it makes it's could be the difference between you being in business and out of business. And
Yep.
so it makes a big difference. And again, I like happy, fluffy, rainbow thoughts and all the positives. And anybody who's listened to this CEO school for a while knows that. But this is something I'm passionate about, is protecting yourself
That's right.
from the downside.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's not something that, we want to stand up and rah, rah, rah about, but I do want to stand on top of the mountain and shout to people and go, ladies, what are you doing? You can't run in there and go running away and forget about everything to the sides. You've got to look, you've got to plan. It's just so imperative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, um, luckily for everyone else, you've been through the gauntlet. You've
Hmm.
done all the things, you've learned everything, not everything, but you've learned through all of your experiences, and you've written a book about it,
Yeah.
and you're now in the prime position to be able to help others on their journey and be able to help them avoid the same challenges that you had early on and later on, because we, as we said, kind of talked about before, you get different challenges at different stages. When you
Correct.
hire people on, uh, you take on a lot of responsibility for being able to meet that payroll every week.
Yeah.
And it can and should be scary for you when you get to that point. So, having somebody to talk to about what's the best way. Should I hire them direct? Should I hire them as a 1099 employee? Um, do I have options that maybe I didn't consider? And then what's the right time in my business planning? One of the big questions that I always ask people is, how many hours do you want to work? And
That's right.
it's not just to figure out where they're headed in their business and how that's going to work out, but it's also to understand at what point do you need to consider hiring an employee, and what does your price point need to be for the goods and services you offer to be able to make that a reality. So there's a
That's right.
lot of moving parts, and there's aren't things that people typically, I mean, this is just covering, just touching the surface, but this isn't the stuff that people typically think of as they're creating their business. That when they look at pricing, they look at what other people are charging, but that's not always the right decision.
No.
um you know I here in the Bay Area, people are charging $6 for a cupcake, and there's a reason for that. I mean, you have a cupcake, you have packaging for said cupcake, you have to bake the cupcake, and you have to pay the overhead on your shop.
That's
um
right.
all of those costs come into play, and if you just are like, well, it only cost me, I don't know how much it costs in materials, a few, under $1, certainly, in materials to make a cupcake. If you say, I'm going to charge $1 for my cupcake and I'll make a profit. No, you'll be out of business.
You'll be
It
out of
doesn't work.
business.
So it's not just it's not just trying to figure out uh hard costs, it's all the other costs that go along with it. It's your PR and your marketing costs, which you and I both agree, find an expert to
Yeah.
help you with that.
That's right.
Find somebody who knows that business to help you with that, but you have to pay. And so, and that's okay. But then when you're doing your business planning, what do you need to account for? What is this going to cost me? How much help do I need? What does my marketing look like? What does my
Hmm.
branding look like? All the things.
Yeah.
So going back to the beginning, circling back around, what we want to do is get you started strong and then
Hmm.
help you over the bumps in the road, right? So that you
Yep.
don't make the mistakes that are going to cost you big money or put you out of business. Is that
Hmm.
correct? I mean,
That's
and keep you thriving and chugging along. Now, I want to ask a follow up question, which
hmm.
is, there often, not just may, there often comes a time in an entrepreneur's journey when they look around at everything they built and they realize that their dream has changed. They're not on what they were passionate about, what they started with is not where they are today, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. How do you walk people through that process?
um as we grow personally, professionally, as our business grows, as our families change, our wants and our needs all change. And in some cases, our customers change. You know, if we have to move a location, or if, economic times have been hard, that's going to change for your business and how you're going to have to shift. For me, I was just sitting in my shop. It was a quiet time for me, late in the afternoon. And that little voice came to me and said, okay, it's time. And I'm saying, it's time? Time for what? You have accomplished everything that you wanted to accomplish. It's now time to go. And I'm like going, well, where the heck am I going to go? Like what am I going to do? But I also knew that I was so passionate that making sure that nobody lived through what I lived through, because I was not.
Okay, here she's back. Hold on. Well, that was right in the middle of the passionate
There you
talk.
go. So I I made the decision to close my shop. I had no idea really where I was going to go, um, or exactly how I was going to be able to help, but I knew that I wanted to help, and that was my mission. Little did I know that COVID would come around, and so I closed my shop, and COVID is here, and here we are all at home. But in theory, I think that was good. It gave me time to really understand and focus on who did I want to help? Why did I want to help them? Again, why? What was that passion? Where
Mhm.
I now have a new passion. How was I going to make sure that they were not going to go through what I did? How was I going to make them understand that I didn't want them to go through what I did? And the only way that I knew how was to tell them what I went through
Which
and be very
you
transparent about it.
yeah. And you did that in your book,
Mhm.
which is The Love of Cake. And uh, it really does telling your story. You said it was cathartic. And I get that, but I think it's really illustrative as well of what the entrepreneurial journey is. And in your case, you had a brick and mortar store, so you had a lot of challenges that simply went along with having a lease and having a landlord and having, you know, having the electricity go out and all of those
Yeah.
things. But even for people whose businesses are online, you still face a myriad of challenges day after
Oh,
day. Sometimes it can beat you up. But
oh, yeah.
one of the hallmarks of being an entrepreneur is resiliency, right? Being able to connect with that passion, connect with who you are at the core of yourself and your reason for this business, and and finding it in yourself, sometimes by crying on somebody's shoulder.
Oh, absolutely.
So I will say this is, again, we're going to talk about community, but I always advise every informed CEO to have a board of advisors, of a core group of fellow entrepreneurs who will help them, support them, counsel them, and be there when the tough times come. But sorry, I now got myself sidetracked. But the thing is that I know, what can I say? Today's just that day. But I think that you you talked in the book, which I love, by the way, about all you didn't hold anything back. You talked
No.
about all the hard times, all the
Yeah.
challenges, all the things that happen, and honestly, it's I think probably required reading for people who are looking to open their own business to say, oh, am I do I have the right stuff basically
Right.
to handle those challenges? And again, I want to repeat, if you find the right people to support you, um, hint that might be Beth. But if you find the right people to support you in this, you can avoid some of these traps and you can move right past them and never have to deal with them. So
No.
yeah, it makes a
No.
big difference.
Yeah. I mean, there was so much love in that bakery, and the community that we had built. Um, and I still have those people around me today. I mean, I embraced them, they embraced me, and I still have them. So, in all hopes, if there's anybody in that group of people that are looking to open up a business, I'm here.
Yeah, that's great. So I kind of mentioned it just a minute ago, which is talking about community, and I harp on this all the time. Anybody who watches me regularly knows that I always talk about community, and that's kind of what you're saying there. Having like-minded people around you who can be supportive of you in your business, and that may or may not be your family. That may or may
Oh,
not be your best friend. Those people are not always your most avid champions uh, when you're trying to, to run
yeah,
a business. And sometimes you need some tough love,
yeah,
and they may not be the ones who are willing to dish it out. So,
that's
talk a little bit about your take on community, what that means to you, and what that means to people when they're running their businesses.
right. So, in a way, we have two communities. We have a community that surrounds us as the entrepreneur. So, we have fellow entrepreneurs, mentors, coaches, whoever that might be, who are going to help us and surround us, be our little tribe, so to speak. But then we have the community that we are serving. And to me, that is a very, very important community. That group of people are the people who are going to help you succeed in your business. You are making a product or offering a service that's going to help them. So you've got to make sure that you're willing and able to cultivate that community around you. So not only do you have the community around you, you are also cultivating a community around your business. And I have to tell you, when you've got both, it's an absolutely wonderful feeling. It's great. It's not like you don't have a care in the world, but you don't have to be so stressed. You've got people everywhere that are there to help you along the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I am a huge, huge proponent of developing your community. It's honestly, it's helps you anchor your business, helps you expand and build your business, but it also may be your pool for referrals. It may be your client pool. It may be a number of different things that uh, to you.
So I had a number, well, not a number, but I had 3 women who opened businesses during the pandemic. Now, I didn't charge them any money during the pandemic because they're going to be a phoenix that's going to rise out of the ashes, or they're not going to rise at all. I hope that they would rise up out of the ashes, and all 3 did. But I wanted to make sure that even though we were in a pandemic, they weren't letting that pandemic get in the way of them. So they were still doing everything the way that I had taught them to do it. and they were building community around them, not only their own personal community, but that outside community too. And I have to tell you, those three women are knocking it out of the park. And I'm just so happy for them that even though we were in a, and still are in a global pandemic, their businesses are rocking it. So
Absolutely. It makes such a difference. So now, I want to ask you, how do people get in touch with you? How do people find out more about what you offer? How do people uh, order your book? You know, how can we, how do we do that?
So I have a link tree link, so to speak, that will direct you to buying the book, getting in touch with me, finding my social media platforms that I'm on. It's like one little easy step, and I will make sure that I include that in the chat for you so everybody has it. Um, the book also comes along with a workbook. So, my way of being able to help everybody is not you just read the book and you're going to go out there and you're going to figure it out yourself. I will hold workshops, and you will have that workbook, which coincides with the book, that takes you through all these steps. And then you have something that's tangible in your hand that you can take with you, and you've got all the information that you need. And you can pick up the phone and call me anytime.
That's
So I will,
awesome. That's a
yeah.
great offer. That's a great offer. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Beth. Um, Honestly, this has been a great topic today. And I hope everyone takes advantage and calls Beth and, takes, blows up her phone, texts her, she does live in Connecticut. So remember, if you're on the West Coast, that's a 3 hour time difference.
Yep. I'm always using my fingers to.
All right. So thank you again, Beth. It was a pleasure having you today, and I wish you all the success in the future.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time that you've given me.